Hey everyone, thanks for joining me today. I wanted to go on a medicine walk today, staying on this theme of how do we expand our inner light. I had thoughts of going to a park near me where I knew there was one cedar grove that I enjoyed. But then thoughts went to another park that I settled on. But I was gathering for the journey, it seemed to begin prior to arriving here. Initially, I thought that I would bring some Palo Santo, which traditionally on a medicine walk, you would sage yourself prior to going on the walk. But I thought I'll just bring the Palo Santo and I'll smudge myself energetically instead of lighting it since things are so dry. And so, I gathered it. And so now we're here and I'm just going to energetically smudge myself. And yet, as I say, uh, I believe the journey already began before I got here. Another thing that I gathered up for this journey was a piece of um, ambifold quartz, and I'll put a better image of this up here in the corner somewhere because I think this is in reverse. Ambifold quartz or angel phantom quartz provides a spiritual connection, instills harmony and balance, guards against psychic attacks, and has to do with upper chakras, so the throat, third eye, and the crown. But I love how it's like there's this world that exists within the quartz crystal that's swirling around. And the different images that you can find here, like if I can get the camera in the right position, like I think there's a dragon in there. And on the other side, there's what I perceive to be a bat. So it's like the wind is all turning around inside this crystal. So these were two things that were already in hand as I walked out the door. And I had planned my route to, to getting here. And I didn't want to take the freeway. So I thought, oh, I can go down this road. And then I found that that road was actually closed, which surprised me because it's a fairly main route here. And then I remembered another route further on down the road that I decided to take, but I haven't been out a lot lately, and it's been a road that I haven't traveled very often, but I was pretty sure it would get me in the right direction, which it did. But along the way, for some reason, I decided to make a turn because, I don't know, I think other cars were turning there, and so I thought that was the turn to take, but it wasn't quite the right time to turn yet. So I turn up this road, and the first thing I see is a deer frantically trying to cross, which I slow down for and stop to make sure that it's safe before I continued. And then I turned around, and indeed, the road that I was on did take me in the right direction. Somewhere along the way, I thought, oh, there's this other park I could go to because it might have been closer to the location I was currently in. But in the end, I decided, this is the place that brings me more joy than the other one. The other one is quite dry and arid, and this one is a little damper. It's cozier to me, um, and it has this wonderful cedar grove that I'll show you as we actually begin the journey. So I arrived, and then I remembered, oh yes, today is the new moon, Libra eclipse, and so I quickly looked up, some of the key points about this time, and those seem to be about fresh starts, about confronting things in relationships, and starting again. So I think those are themes that I was feeling this morning, in that um, I wasn't quite sure about my morning activities. They seemed a little different and yet the same at the same time. So, as I say, we're here in the Cedar Grove, and I'm ready to go on a medicine walk with you. And a medicine walk is just about um, setting an intention and then going for a walk. I was reminded as I was arriving that I didn't need to come to a park. I mean, traditionally, those are how medicine walks are done. They're more in a natural setting. But just going outside in your neighborhood is enough. But so, being a little bit distracted by people walking by, a medicine walk is about holding an intention, going on a walk, and then noticing what you observe. So, again, my walk was already beginning when I arrived, or when I started driving, and then I arrived here in the park. So there was things like the deer showing up. Now, deer is a um, gentle animal. And I'm going to pause for a moment. That was kind of a loud person walking by. So, yeah, a deer is gentle, and it just reminded me of the care that we need to take in of animals and allow them their space, as we inhabit lands that the animals had been on before us. I think the other thing that came up on my journey over this way had to do with having to go in different directions than I thought I was going to, and not being sure about where the path was going to lead me. And as I entered the park and started walking, I was remembering that the first time that I learned of medicine walks was at my art therapy counseling program in Santa Fe. And we just walked right there on the campus to find the things that attracted us, to find messages there within. So it doesn't have to be anything particularly special. You just need to hold the intention and then observe what you see and what happens. But there definitely seems to be a theme already of having to try out different directions, to expand where you thought you were going to go, and trying new things or rediscovering things from before. Like, this is a park that I really enjoy, but I don't really come here that often. It's not as close as another park, which is pretty nice in itself. So I think I'm going to leave this section here, and then I'll be turning the camera around and we'll begin our walk together today. So here we go with our intention of how do we expand our inner light. I'm just starting a slow pace. And haven't done one of these with a camera for quite a while. I think I've only done one before this. In some ways, it's harder to pay attention holding the camera. But let's see how it goes. I love the fall and the going inward time is a favorite for me. So perhaps going inward and being quiet is part of this, our intention together. And I'm noticing a bunch of greenery here, which we can go down and look at. And it's a plant that I know as geranium. And I'm gonna, I just pinched the leaf, and we call it affectionately Stinky Bob in the gardening and pulling weeds community, because it has a pungent scent to it, and most people don't like it in their yards. It reminds me of things that we call weeds, but there aren't really any weeds. They are perceptions of particular plants. What's fine here in the forest is not necessarily fine for other people. I happen to love ferns, and I love particularly how big they get here. My mother does not, but these are probably 4 feet tall. So perhaps expanding our inner light is about allowing different perspectives, allowing people to have what they want in their yards and what they don't. And yards come up for me quite a bit because I'm also a gardener, and so I'm weeding often in people's yards. And now I'm seeing this dead cedar branch. It's broken off from somewhere. Hard to tell at the moment where. But the dead leaves show for a fact that it's dead or dying. However, that reminds me of trees that die will often have growth or new trees formed from them at times. I don't know that I see one here at the moment. That's what it's making me think of. And I just always love the branches on the cedar trees and the way that they twist and turn and curve. They're not just straight like many other kinds of trees. Which again reminds me of my journey over here today that had many twists and turns. So it seems like to expand our inner light, we should expect twists and turns, or enjoy twists and turns, or appreciate twists and turns. And what do we have over here? Someone has left a little tiny pair of shoes. These are typical in some of our forest parks here, in that people will build kind of these fairy cottages or places where the fairies exist. They're kind of delightful, surprising things within the forest. So, surprise seems to be an element on our journey to expanding our light. Joy and surprise. And then we have over here, I see some mushrooms very prominently coming out of, what kind of tree is this? Sorry. I think it's like a cedar. It's kind of not, might be a combination of things. The part of it looks more like a big leaf maple. Let's go up the tree a little bit there. Or trees. I mean, there's several trees grouped together here. But they're not the healthiest looking trees. And again, we have more of the stinky bob geranium. And these big mushrooms, funguses, growing off of the surface. So I paused again for some people to go by, but still trying to come back to the mushrooms for a moment and see what other gifts they have to offer. The brown and white contrast. Who knows if they're edible? Probably not. Someone might know. And then I'm looking up and I see that somebody long ago has carved into this tree, which makes me think of the fact that trees can take some damage to them, but not to the, if you were to strip a tree of its bark, it would definitely die. In particular, I'm thinking about cedar trees, and that there is an Indian tradition to harvest the cedar bark, but the Native Americans knew how much you could harvest without harming the tree. So that makes me think of knowing limits, not taking too much. That resources are available, but don't take all the resources for yourself and allowing others to die. There goes a squirrel. Yeah, you. What do you have to say, Mr. Squirrel? Reminds me that I also saw a squirrel as I was walking in today. And much like this one, although he disappeared a little quicker, the first one just kind of sat there and went about his business. Didn't mind me whatsoever. So I guess the squirrel makes me think of don't be worried about what you're doing, what you're choosing in life. It's your own business. You can't expand your light if you don't choose to walk in it. And now I've arrived at this cool old stump. And there's definitely a big hole down in the bottom there. Like a creature has probably taken over a home in there. So we can find our light in different ways, in different homes. We can choose to create our home in different ways, in different forms. It doesn't have to be in the way that everybody else does. In fact, expansion requires that we choose some different path. So I'm wondering if maybe we're complete and checking in with my body to see. I think maybe I could go on and keep talking about different things that walked in my path for quite a while and make reference to our intention. There was a fleeting thought that I was trying to get back. I guess it's that medicine walks don't have to be some big deal. It's just going through your life, holding an intent, and making meaning out of what shows up. It's just meant to give you ideas, to give you different thoughts, so that you might gain greater wisdom from whatever thoughts you start reflecting upon. So, with that, I think we're about to end, and I hope you have a great day. See you again soon. As I continued on my walk out of the park, however, I see this sign that I don't usually look at. Note that it says, Room to grow. Deer are often found in the new openings. Remember the deer that I encountered on the beginning of my journey?